Hi, my name is Rachel Huddleston, and this is my general narrative project for understanding cultural diversity. For this, I interviewed my mother and my grandmother, and so I'll just start off by telling you a little bit about them. My grandma was born in Overton County, which is Livingston, Tennessee, on September 3rd, 1954, and she graduated from high school and got married young, and she worked several places throughout her life, mostly sales and secretarial jobs, but most of her life she has been a stay-at-home mother. My mom was born on December 29th, 1974 in San Antonio, Texas. This was while my grandpa was in the Air Force and they were living on base. And she is the second of 7 children, so she had a lot of responsibilities growing up. And she started working at a very young age. She started cleaning a dentist's office whenever she was 10, and then she started babysitting, and she got her first real job whenever she was 14 at a jewelry store, and then she worked in sales after that some, and she also did those secretarial jobs until she became a nurse, and then she has worked at a hospital for the past 20 years. So that's a little bit of a background on the people I interviewed. And one of the first questions I asked them was, as a child, do you recall any adult ever discussing prejudice with you? And both my grandma and my mom said that they didn't ever recall having a discussion with an adult whenever they were a child about prejudice. My grandma I talked to her about unwritten rules that she might have picked up on from adults in her life whenever she was younger, about people who were different than her. And my grandma said that her parents grew up in a time when the N-word was used to refer to black people, and so they didn't really speak highly of this race or regard them highly, and she definitely picked up on them doing that whenever she was a child. And my mother said that she never really picked up on anything. The only thing that she saw was that you didn't acknowledge or point out when someone was different than you, because she was taught that it was rude and insensitive, and she said that she still feels this way, and that has stuck with her. As far as one of the first times that they encountered somebody who was different than them, my grandma said that the first time she ever met anyone who was different than her was in high school, because they didn't have very many black people in their community, or anybody of any different races actually, and she didn't travel much, even to the nearest town, so her pool was very limited of people to interact with. But she said that she remembered this girl in high school that she really wanted to be friends with. There was this black girl in the band, and that everybody loved her, and that she was so fun to be around, and that she never really saw her mistreated, that if it happened, she never knew about it or didn't see that. And my mother said that she was in kindergarten whenever she first encountered someone who was different than her, that they were living in Birmingham, Alabama, and she said that she was just so fascinated with the black children's skin, and she said that she thought it was beautiful and so soft, and that she would have to concentrate on not staring too hard at it. And she said that she would love whenever they would wait for the bus, she would try to get to stand close enough so that their skin would touch. And she said that she remembered them always smelling like coconuts, which I thought was funny. I'm sure that was just something in her mind. And then she said, as far as any other race goes, that she remembered an Asian lady living upstairs from them whenever she was really young, probably like 3, but that she didn't really have any feelings about her, and that was about all the cultural diversity interaction she got in her youth. And I asked them to think about different events that might have happened on a local or regional or national level that influenced their thinking about prejudice. And my grandma said that she remembered whenever Martin Luther King got shot, and I guess I realized that she was alive for this, but that was kind of shocking. I didn't even consider that she was alive for that. And she said that she thought it was awful for someone to shoot him because he was just wanting people to be treated equally. And she remembered just feeling sad about that. And then my mother said that she didn't really recall a specific incident, but that she did remember whenever she was young, she would hear about people in tiny boats or ships trying to escape Cuba to come to the United States. And that she would see images on the news of people packed in these tiny boats or any kind of flotation device, and if they made it here safely, they would always be immediately returned, or they might die on the way here. And it always made her sad because she never understood why we just couldn't let them stay here if they had worked so hard to get here and sacrificed so much. I asked them about personal events that might have influenced their thinking about prejudice. And my grandma said that her personal events would definitely be going to church, where she was taught that God loves all of his children no matter what color. And she is a very religious woman. She wasn't necessarily raised that way, but she definitely became more spiritual and more religious as she grew up. And so that was the biggest event that influenced her. And my mom said that hers was really the people she grew up with. She grew up with a really nice black guy, and he is the first black mayor in our town. So that's very significant and very huge for a town that is mostly full of people of the white race. And she said that she knows she could call him day or night if she needed anything, and that he is just the sweetest guy. And she also said that she had dated outside her race once, which I never knew about. She said that he was really nice, and it had nothing to do with his race that it didn't work out, but that to her that they were just guys, they were just people, they weren't defined by their color, that didn't categorize them to her. I asked them what they did tell their children about prejudice, and my grandma said that she taught her children and grandchildren that we're all God's children, and just tried to reiterate what she had learned in church, that we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, and that no one is better than anyone else or lesser, and that we're all just equal. And my mom said that she tried to explain very simply and just matter-of-factly that everyone is born different, that some people look different than us, and some people speak differently, and some people talk differently than you, and some people walk differently and move in wheelchairs or crutches, and just there are many things that can be different about us, and it's not a big deal, it's just different. And she said that she would try to explain it, but she wouldn't spend a lot of time on it or not make a big deal about it, because if she made it a big deal, then it would seem like it was a big deal whenever it really isn't. And I thought that that was a smart technique that she used with me growing up. I asked them about the problem with prejudice in the United States and their feelings or thoughts on that. Has it grown worse or stayed the same? And how have things changed? And my grandma said that prejudice has definitely improved significantly over her lifetime, that she didn't see it personally, but where she grew up, but in the time she grew up, that blacks weren't allowed to drink from the same water fountain. And she didn't see that personally, but she knows that it went on. In our county, there was a school specifically for black people, and that burned down in the early 60s, and so then they were allowed to go to regular county schools. And so that's why she didn't really know any of them until she went to high school. But she also talked about the fact that we have a black mayor in our town, so that she said that makes her think that prejudice is really gone from our town. It's not in it, and that she said that something that might have stayed the same over the years is that we still don't have very many black people in our area. But she was mostly thinking of our local area. But she also said about nationally how we went from a man being assassinated who was fighting for the rights of black people to having a black president. And so that's really big, and that's been a really big change over her lifetime. And my mother said that having a black president is definitely huge progress, and she said that growing up she would never have thought that that would have been a possibility. And she said as far as staying the same, that she thinks any situation that singles out any other race continues to promote prejudice. So like she used the example on job applications, whenever it says that the best person will be hired regardless of race, nationality, gender, beliefs, whatever, that stating that kind of calls attention that there's separations and categorizations for people, and she thinks that it should just say the best person will be hired for the job, period. I asked them what they believed had the most influence on diversity, on their views on diversity. whether it be family or peers or teachers, the media, religion, community. And my grandmother just said religion. Definitely. She kept that simple. My mom said that she thought the media, and she talked about early on how Sesame Street was one of the most culturally diverse shows on television, and she grew up watching it and learning that it was okay to be different from one another. And she said that since the opportunity wasn't really available for her to have interactions with people of other races in real life, that she got exposed to it on television mostly. Then I asked them what they believe that their responsibility is in combating prejudice. And my grandma said that she thinks it's a really great idea to set examples and to treat people kindly and with respect. And she said that she thinks it's her personal responsibility that if she saw someone being treated badly or someone treating others badly, that she would speak up to them and try to help the person that was being treated badly. And she said that she tried to do that with her children growing up. But that she never really had to address the issue because that wasn't really a big issue with her children. And my mother said that she felt like she should treat everyone how she would want it to be treated, and that it was her responsibility to also lead by example and be kind and understanding and never judge another. And I think they both have really lived by that and set that example for me and taught me that. I asked them how they thought that prejudice and discrimination should be handled in the future in the United States. And my grandma said that the only way that she thinks that the only way it'll ever end or that we'll ever have progress is when parents teach their children in their homes to treat all mankind with love and kindness, because it really starts so young and it starts in the home with the parents setting the example. That's the first interactions and examples you have in your life. And my mother said that in the future she would love to see less concentration on prejudice, that she wants everyone to concentrate on humanity as a whole rather than individual races, and that we need to focus on issues that we can work together on and things that other than prejudices, because that just she felt like drawing attention to it is what makes it worse. So my kind of thoughts to wrap this up, my thoughts on the different things that they said about this was just that my grandma, she mostly associated the questions about prejudice with Black people, and I thought that that was interesting. My mother did kind of as well, but less than my grandmother. My mother also seemed to think that drawing attention to the topic would worsen things rather than increasing our awareness and helping us move past them. She thought that avoidance was kind of the best solution, which I'm not sure if I agree with, but I can also see her point of where she's coming from and why she would think that. And both of them seem to think that prejudice has improved over the years, but I think they both focused more on racial prejudice and not so much on different ways, gender or other ways that people can be prejudiced against, and or sexual orientations or things like that. They both just more so address the racial, and I thought that was interesting. That's more what they associate it with, and traditionally before this class that's what I would have associated it with, but I know that we have a lot of different ways we can be prejudiced against people and a lot of things that need work. But I learned a lot from this assignment and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed getting to talk to my mother and my grandmother about this and learn more about their views and thoughts on it and compare to how I personally feel about it, and see how much of that I've grown on my own and how much has came from them. But yeah, I really enjoyed this project and I hope you learned something too. Thanks.